upper 70s for the high. 50% chance of showers and storms Tuesday night, 50% chance on Wednesday. It's been to 79. It's 78 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by the Lawn Doctor. The Lawn Doctor's 2 service soil enrichment program will help increase the size and number of roots in your grass. Find out more. Call the Lawn Doctor at 753-LAWN.
My hearing started to go right around the same time my wife started naming off all the upgrades she wanted done on the house. I figured it was selective hearing. To be honest, I was actually pretty upset when it was suggested that I might need hearing aids, but ultimately I knew it was time for a change.
At Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology, we can help you regain the confidence that you're hearing life the way it was meant to be heard.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
Visit CacheHearing.com for details.
KVNU News Time is 5:06. A pair of Cache Valley lawmakers have been recognized by the Salt Lake Chamber of Commerce for their performance during the 2023 general session of the legislature. State Representative Dan Johnson, a Republican from District 3, and Senator Chris Wilson, a Republican from Logan, have been cited for their efforts to pass laws building on Utah's economic foundation and expanding prosperity for all Utahns, according to Derek Miller, the president and CEO of the Salt Lake Chamber. At a ceremony held last Wednesday in Salt Lake City, the Cache Valley lawmakers each received the Legislative Business Champion Award. That award is directly tied to a legislator's support for business priorities and voting record during the 2023 general session. In recognizing Johnson and Wilson, Miller said that each of them represented a strong voice for Utah's economy and future prosperity. Johnson and Wilson were among 68 of 104 lawmakers to earn the Legislative Business Champion Award this year during a breakfast ceremony at the Grand America Hotel in downtown Salt Lake City. And it was announced late last week that Elizabeth Betsy Cantwell is now the 17th president of Utah State University. Turned out to be an interesting coincidence that within 8 days this month, USU looked to the University of Arizona to find not only a new president, but also a new campus chief of police. It appeared that way Friday when the Utah Board of Higher Education assembled at USU to introduce Cantwell, a University of Arizona vice president, as the school's 17th president. On May 11th, Jason Bry, assistant chief of the University of Arizona campus police force, was named the Aggies' new chief of police. Cantwell said Friday she is so pleased to be able to take everything she has done and bring it to USU and really offer it to everyone as a service. Following Dr. Cantwell's introduction, Utah Board Chair Lisa Michelle Church called her a national leader of incredible caliber and said that they are so excited to see what happens next. Cantwell assumes her new position later this summer, succeeding Noel Cockett, whose 6-year term will end in June. KVNU News Time is 5:08. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Keeping you informed. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM, 102.1 FM, and online at 610kvnu.com.
Here's Chad Norton, the lawn doctor, with a tip for your lawn.
The way you water your lawn makes a big difference. Water restrictions and water costs have both increased over the last few years. The Lawn Doctor offers a popular service to help keep your lawn green and healthy while watering less. One application of our HydroGuard service reduces your watering frequency by up to 1 day a week, saving you water and money.
Watering help, weed, fertilizer, and pest control. Call the Lawn Doctor at 753-LAWN or go to lawndoctor.com.
Reach the Sheriff's Department Civil Processing Division. Please hold where call is transferred to Sergeant David Chapman.
Deputy McCoy.
This is Sheriff Chad Jensen. Fraudulent phone calls similar to this one have been received by many citizens in Cache County. The most common scams are asking for payment over the phone because of a lawsuit, civil bench warrant, or to post bail for a family member who has supposedly been arrested. They ask for payment in form of prepaid cards, gift cards, or money transfers, and if you do not pay, they threaten to arrest you. The Sheriff's Office does not take payment or ask for personal information over the phone. These types of scams often use internet phone numbers, which are nearly impossible to track. If you receive a phone call of this nature, do not give out any personal information and hang up. Be cautious about the information you give out over the phone to make sure you are not the next victim of a scam.
All aboard!
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People, hour 2 of today's show. Still, Monday, May 22nd. Beautiful out there, absolutely. Yeah, the river's going down a little bit, I noticed, through the valley. Still no peak yet on some of these others, but I noticed that a little bit of a decrease. So hopefully, the flooding concern will back off or continue to back off over the next couple of weeks. Smoke blowing out as well. Notice it's a little clearer today. Supposed to be even more clear tomorrow as some upsets in the airstreams clear some of that smoke out to other areas. Of course, it doesn't just go away. Someone else gets it. So you're welcome from Utah, whoever it ends up with. Train sounds there at the first, though. Longtime listeners of the show know I am a huge fan. I don't know what it is since I was a kid going down and visiting that old retired train engine in Ogden, which I think is still there at some park in Ogden, to going out to the Golden Spike, both the event that happens once a year, but also just going out there in general. Rail lines themselves, I've got probably an unreasonably large collection of photos of train tracks throughout the country when I visited places. It's just, I don't know, there's something about it, the whole culture around trains, going back through history, that just fascinates me, from the construction of the railroad, including, the bad stuff, like, slavery, that was basically a part of the construction of some of the railroad, taking immigrants from China and places like that and putting them in, a servitor's debt prison style scenario, and then making them build rail lines. It's a history that's worth knowing about and reading about, and it's very accessible. Even if you aren't a huge fan of the trains themselves, like I am, it's a history that's tied to every other major historical event, nearly, for the last 200 years. So, I don't know, it's just a cool thing to read about, and I've linked to some of my favorite reads and books you can get as well on our Facebook page, in honor of some huge news today here in Utah. I'm so excited about this. Although the destinations aren't exactly what I'd hoped for first, it is finally happening. Utah Transit Authority officials today announced that they are, quote, optimistic Utah will be receiving. Now, they wouldn't say this if they weren't really optimistic, but they're optimistic that they'll be receiving federal funding for a full-on study by state transportation officials of restoring commuter rail service from Salt Lake City to Idaho and Nevada in the near future. The agency's director today, after a press statement, told Deseret News that he very much supports the idea of creating more north-south passenger rail corridors as well, especially since the option is basically non-existent in much of the West right now, unless you go all the way to California and Oregon. But there's growing demand for this, of course, and so a lot of people, whenever this comes up, will say, why did it ever go away? Well, there were reasons. It actually became with the wide adoption of the car, it became a less preferred form of transportation. And of course, you can fly most places cheap if you plan ahead enough in advance, at least. And so trains just for commuter services just weren't a thing. And then for a while they were barely a thing, or started to be barely a thing, for even transporting goods. That's coming back as people realize, This is, a very cheap way to transport things all over the country. But commuter rail, so we have Front Runner, of course. You can drive down to the 24th Street Union Station there in Ogden, park your vehicle, get on Front Runner. I tell you, if you're going to downtown Salt Lake and you are not in a hurry and you don't mind a few blocks of walking here and there, taking Front Runner down, if you've got the extra hour on each end of your trip to spare for that train ride, it is such a nice way to get to Salt Lake. It drops you off right in downtown, about 2 blocks off of downtown, about 3 blocks from City Creek. It's just, you don't stress about traffic. You're not at risk of getting in an accident. You're not going to get stuck in traffic if someone else gets an accident. The trains are air-conditioned and have high-speed internet, and it's cheap. It's like, if you use the cards you can pick up at Maverick or anywhere, it's like $9 for a round trip down to Salt Lake and back on the train. Anyway, I'm a huge fan, but I acknowledge part of that is I really like trains. Not everyone does. It's something that, as Utah's population grows as well, we're going to have to get realistic about. Even here in Cache Valley, the public transit is a necessary part of our transportation future. And within just a few years here in Cache Valley, I think traffic's going to get bad enough. People who maybe right now would say, towards CVTD are going to be on those buses, and CVTD is going to be under more pressure to add additional options. Eventually, we're going to be talking about connecting Cache Valley via rail to Front Runner, which eventually is going to go all the way up to Brigham City. So there will be a time when you can, here in Logan at the transit center, get to Salt Lake without ever starting your vehicle. Via train. And I think that's really cool. I think it's the future as well, which is interesting because, as I said, it's also the past. So what does this announcement today mean? Well, specific destinations weren't talked about. Now, for me, I want to be able to get on a train in Ogden and go to Moab and go to Boise. You can do it now going to Reno, but it's a little tougher because you have to time it around the schedule of the California Zephyr. Which leaves at midnight in Salt Lake, gets in Reno at like 8 in the morning, and then you have to stay there for 2 or 3 days before it comes back. But still, if you have to go to Reno, it's a much nicer way to get there. You can sleep on the train. That's Amtrak that does that. But what does it mean for Utah to be studying passenger rail? Well, first off, the announcement today again was that the federal funding is going to be made available for Utah to do this, which means it's moving ahead. So the study of passenger rail service restoration between Salt Lake City and Las Vegas, and then talking with Nevada about connections to Boise, maybe additional trains out to the Reno area. And then after that, as the director said today, we'll be talking about more north and south options as far as this as well, because once this is up and running with trips to Las Vegas or Boise, the rail then could be used for additional routes at a different time, or additional destinations at different times. So it's big. The Idaho Transportation Department also applied for this same grant to help study the exact same service, but they're looking at it from Boise to Salt Lake. So Idaho will be looking at it from Boise to Salt Lake. Utah will be looking at it through both respective departments of transportation from Salt Lake to Boise. And then John Gleason, spokesman for UDOT, said at this point, this is purely an exploratory study. It doesn't mean it's going to happen for sure, but it's an exploratory study to see how this could be used, how it could be incorporated with existing public transit, and also what it might mean as far as reduction in traffic and more. So pretty exciting news, honestly. I've been waiting to hear this forever. Gleason also said, given the nature of Utah's relationship with the FRA, the Federal Railroad Administration, and conversations with Amtrak, they're very optimistic not only they'll get the funding to do this study, but that they'll get additional support if they decide to move ahead with it. So another way to put that, Amtrak is very excited about this, which means Amtrak sees there's a potential market for this. So I'm excited. To be able to get on a train and ride that to Boise instead of driving, and the Boise one, by the way, Front Runner is a little slower because of its many stops. The train from here to Boise would actually be faster than the drive to Boise is currently by car. So If you want to read more about this and see the full statement from UDOT today as they made this announcement, the exploratory study is going to begin, most likely. I've linked to the reporting on it on our Facebook page, and we'll be back with more of For the People right after this.
Some companies will quote you a lower price just to get you to commit to having them perform a service for you, but not John Hanson, the Duck Hunter. When you see coupons or prices advertised for services, we highly recommend you call and ask a lot of questions. Find out what other costs might be added, what type of equipment and experience they have, and what you can expect from their finished result. This tip will get you better service and a good price. For a free consultation on air duct cleaning and dryer vent line cleaning, call the Duct Hunter, 770-4813.
We are the Duck Hunter.
Story today at CashValleyDaily.com. That reminded me of an interview we did here on the show years ago with Professor Lynn Nilsson of Utah State University, teaching folklore and mythological history. Well, not mythological, but the urban legends at Utah State University. And during that conversation, Lynn said something that has stuck with me through the years as we've become this digital society, meaning, we've gone from, landlines and written accounts to social media and no one using their phones as phones anymore. There's a popular meme that goes around now, which is me. I do this, but it's a joke about people waiting for the person calling to go to voicemail so they can get back to using their phone the way it's intended. That's no joke. And I've said many times on the show, I roll at all the doomsayers. I'm not saying social media or this constantly connected world we live in is all good and doesn't come with risks or even some obvious potential harms now. But I also think that people tend to have a knee-jerk, this is going to ruin everything. Remember when Google came around and their search engine got smart enough that everyone was using it, and we had all these columnists, usually, the politierati, that are the smartest guys in the room always, and they were all saying, this is going to make a whole generation dumb. They won't read anymore. They won't learn anything anymore because they can just look it up at their fingertips. What we've seen is the opposite. That it actually exposed the millennial generation especially, but it started with Gen X. The internet actually exposed us to a world of information, which is one of the reasons now that political parties are struggling to figure Generation Z out. Because Generation Z now, having lived in this world throughout their lives, not adopting it as a teen or as an adult, but they've never known a world without this constant connection. They are very globally minded. They're aware of news stories around the world. They're aware of international stories, not any more than any other teenager or 20-year-old might be, of news in general. But what news they are aware of is, let me put it this way. We don't have data showing that the internet made this latest generation read more news than the average American. But what we did see is that the news they're reading is broader. It's not just local news. They're plugged into international news. They're aware of international events and things. They're very globally minded, which is one of the reasons that, when surveyed, they list climate change and the lack of leaders to do anything about it as one of the primary reasons they're not hopeful for the future. So again, I think that's a good thing. I think being more aware of world events is not going to hurt anyone. And being completely unaware of those things we've seen has hurt. So I think there are plenty of benefits to this. Socially, I also think social media and constant connection. Another prediction from the Chicken Littles was that, nobody's going to hang out in person anymore. Well, we've seen the opposite. We saw, with Facebook first, but now with TikTok and Instagram, teens, for example, are using this to actually plan in-person social events on a more frequent basis and stay abreast of events that are happening amongst their peers or in their communities. So we've seen the opposite of the predictions. So, again, roll your eyes when anyone says it's all negative. But it does present some challenges. And one of the things, again, back to Dr. Lynn McNeil speaking to us here in the studio several years ago, I've been paying a lot of attention to this. She mentioned, just kind of casually in our conversation, this could change our record keeping. This could change our concept of the past, because one thing that comes with the digital age, the social media age, the constantly connected age is things are less permanent. And the way that it manifests most prominently, I think, is with music, because Gen X and Gen Z compared. Gen X was the generation that wanted a huge CD collection. Gen Z is a generation that doesn't care if they actually own any of it. They want to access to it for a period of time, to be able to listen to it, and then when they're tired of it, delete it from their device. They don't care if they own it permanently, because their concept is if I ever want it back, I'll just go download it again from my subscription service of choice. That's the best example I can think of, but this is the same with books, television, news media included when it comes to Gen Z. So it changes things. And Dr. McNeil, when she was in the studio, said, as a studier and teacher of folklore and its importance in history keeping, in people's concept of community and self, she said, until the digital age, this had always been storytelling. Storytelling, grandparents telling you your stories, parents passing down those stories, even things you witnessed as a child that you then retell as an adult. These have a tendency to give us a place, a sense of place within a group, within a community, within a family, within a workplace sometimes. And that is very important. And she said one of her concerns is that with the non-permanence of social media, and I mean, obviously, if you post something to Twitter or Instagram, it's there until you go in and delete it. But no one goes back and looks at anything that's more than a week old unless they're stalking somebody. So, Dr. McNeil said, does this, her question was, will this change our storytelling, our sense of place, our sense of ties to a community, our folklore? If you look up the definition of folklore, that's what she's talking about. So this news story caught my eye today, and I'm happy to see this. CashValleyDaily.com, our good friend Charlie Schill writing about StoryCorps. StoryCorps is an organization that is going around the valley hoping to capture digital stories of northern Utah residents. Story begins, the 30-day visit of StoryCorps to northern Utah got off to a flying start Friday, April 28th. Francesca Pena, who is a Bronx native, and her title is recording facilitator and site manager for StoryCorps, said that they had, this was on the 28th, she said they had almost 57 recording sessions scheduled, meaning that they'd be sitting down with 104 local residents, paired together, 57 pairs of individuals, and just asking them to tell their stories. Now, this all goes out on the StoryCorps podcast, which is a podcast of National Public Radio broadcasts. And what they do with the interviewee's permission, their stories are archived in the Library of Congress. And they have this traveling recording studio, which is Charlie writes, an adjusted Airstream trailer. And they were here in Logan at the end of last week, and they had 66 additional appointments they're going to be getting to in other parts of northern Utah, by the way. And they go around the country spending 30 days here and there, the 30 days here in Logan. It was sponsored by a partnership with Cache County, USU Credit Union, National Public Radio, and Utah Public Radio. And it was, again, a chance to record conversations of the American experience, life here in Utah. And what they want to do is I go back to Studs Terkel. If you don't know who he is, Google him and read some of his books, listen to some of his audio. Studs Terkel was a journalist who specialized in just recording conversations, writing them up as books, allowing you to read. He did one on, the post-World War II era that ended up being, I think, one of the most important economic works in history. He didn't intend it that way. He just wanted to get the stories out there. But it really showed what life was like as we transitioned from this booming wartime economy to try to keep it afloat and try to keep the growth active. It really showed what that experience was like for average people. And so I love that this StoryCorps thing exists. I hope we see more of this. I hope we see more attempts to challenge the impermanence of social media and life constantly connected online with storytelling, with sitting down, and letting people, instead of an Instagram post or a 250 character tweet or a Facebook status update with a photo, actually record some of these stories and make sure that sense of community, that sense of belonging to a group is a part of the future as well. And maybe it'll rekindle some excitement for that folklorish storytelling that Dr. McNeil teaches about the importance of at Utah State University. Check it out. I've highlighted some, just a few pieces from the story, but it's a lengthy story from Charlie Schill at CashValleyDaily.com. And it might sound trivial to you. I think this is an important thing. I think that this is something that's slipped through the cracks in this constantly connected digital age we live in, and we shouldn't let it. Storytelling's pretty dang important. We'll be back right after this.
KVNU News Time is 5:30. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Roof Rescue. Firefighters were called to a house fire a block north of the Hyde Park Cemetery Sunday afternoon. The blaze was reported at 3:10 p.m. near 55 North, 400 East. According to emergency radio traffic, the home's occupants called 911 reporting smoke inside the residence, believed to have been caused by electrical wiring. Several crews responded to the area. 4 people were in the home at the time of the fire. They were advised by 911 operators to evacuate the home. The first firefighters to arrive reported no flames visible. However, heavy smoke was coming from the eaves of the roof, prompting additional crews to be paged to the incident. Firefighters located heat coming from the attic and the garage. After removing some of the ceiling, they found the fire smoldering in the attic's insulation and were able to extinguish it. The homeowners told firefighters they were cooking something in a toaster when the power went out. Then they started smelling smoke. Firefighters were able to extinguish the fire quickly with only minimal damage. They were also able to keep it from spreading into the rest of the home. The fire is suspected to have started in the garage. Homeowners had told first responders that they had bought an electric vehicle and had placed a charger inside the garage. They noticed their home appliances stopped working a few hours before the fire started. Officials are still investigating the exact cause of the fire, but they believe the electrical wiring is to blame. The opening round of the 4A boys and girls lacrosse playoffs saw the top 2 teams advance, but there were also a number of upsets on Saturday. The semifinals for both boys and girls resume on Tuesday and Wednesday at Westminster College, with the championships being played at Zions Bank Stadium in Harriman on Thursday for the girls and Friday for the boys. Playoff games this week conflict with some of the schools involved in their graduation ceremonies, notably Mountain Crest, Ridgeline, and Green Canyon. Graduation ceremonies for the Mustangs are scheduled for Tuesday, May 23rd at 1 p.m. at the USU Spectrum, while the girls' team is scheduled to compete at 3 p.m. at Westminster College in Salt Lake City. Graduation ceremonies for the Riverhawks are scheduled for Wednesday the 24th at 1 p.m. at the USU Spectrum, and ceremonies for the Wolves are scheduled for 6 p.m. and also on Wednesday at 6 p.m. in the Spectrum. Those 2 teams are scheduled to face each other at Westminster at 3 p.m. that day. According to officials with the UHSAA, the Utah High School Activities Association, the playoff dates and times are set and cannot be moved. Small graduation ceremonies are being planned to take place on the field. For those graduating seniors, this is not the first time UHSAA has run into these conflicts and have conducted special ceremonies for the athletes before providing an intimate setting for the seniors and their families. And Utah's non-farm payroll employment experienced steady growth over the past 12 months, according to the latest report from the Utah Department of Workforce Services. Utah's seasonally adjusted Unemployment rate for April 2023 is estimated at 2.3%, with about 41,300 people currently unemployed. In comparison, the national unemployment rate decreased slightly to 3.4% in April. Chief economist for Utah DWS, Mark Nold, says Utah's job growth has slowed slightly, but there are no major indications that Utah's economy is under stress, let alone duress.
Over the year, job growth is at 2.6%. That is a 12-month increase of 43,800 jobs throughout Utah. For perspective, that would be enough new workers to fill the Delta Center in downtown Salt Lake City twice.
9 out of 10 major private sector industry groups witnessed net job gains compared to the previous year. Leading the growth were the leisure and hospitality services sector, followed by professional business services, education and health services, and other services. The only industry to experience a decline in employment were financial activities, which saw a reduction of 1,800 jobs compared to the previous year.
The overall fate of the Utah economy is beholden to the performance of the national economy. It takes big national downturns to knock the Utah economy off track. Conversely, it doesn't take much of a push from the national economy to get the Utah economy moving again in a strong way.
Nold says if the national economy can stay out of the way of Utah's economy, then Utah will keep flourishing. KVNU News Time is 5:36.
This is David from Roof Rescue. This past winter in Cache Valley was the worst in recent memory, reminding us of the sheer power of Mother Nature. Snow, ice dams, and record-low temperatures left behind a trail of leaks, broken gutters, and damaged roofs. Let's get those issues inspected and addressed so that when next winter comes around, you can focus your attention on your family, the holidays, and winter activities instead of leaks, drips, and ice dams. Call today for your complimentary inspection at 435-999-4268 or visit us at roofrescueusa.com. Roof Rescue, providing watertight peace of mind.
KVNU weather for tonight: partly cloudy skies, a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms, patchy smoke hanging around, low around 50. And then partly cloudy, slight chance of showers and thunderstorms in the morning, cloudy, rain showers likely, and a chance of thunderstorms in the afternoon on Tuesday, high in the upper 70s. It was 79 today. It's 77 right now at KVNU. Mount Logan Laundry has 55 and 80-pound washers to make your stay much shorter. Located in Logan and Brigham City. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. Each leading presidential candidate has a problem with a core bloc. We examine Biden's with young Democrats. Now we'll look at Trump's with suburban women. Also, Gen Z still has a perception problem at the office in the eyes of older workers. Whose job is it to adjust? And the age when you stop feeling young yet don't exactly feel old. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
All right, dads, let's test your knowledge. Ready? What does this sound? Some of the more experienced parents recognize it as the sound a young teenager makes when he's done something he regrets. Listen. Kind of a sad sound, isn't it? But if you recognized it, then you know exactly what to do. Listen, because that's when together you can both figure out how not to make the same mistake again.
This message from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Hey, that's one nice new bike, Josie.
Yeah, birthday present. Rides really smooth, too. Oh, and I see you finally got a new helmet.
I did. Bought it cheap online.
Love those side wings.
Hey, you hungry?
Yeah, I'm starving. And need some water, too.
Okay, follow me. We'll turn off here.
I'm right behind you.
Hey, watch the cars. They can be crazy.
Teddy! No! Are you okay? Teddy! Somebody do something!
I called 911. They should be here soon.
Was this young man hit by a car?
Yes, and I'm concerned because his helmet is smashed and cracked open.
It's a brand new helmet.
It's probably a fake.
Please help him.
Fakes cause real harm. You're smart. Buy smart.
Go for real.
Brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council and the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office.
welcome back to KVNU's For the People, hour 2 of today's show. It is, a nice day that's turning a bit windy. Still in the 70s, though, temperature-wise. Can't complain. Appreciate everyone being with us today, and really appreciate the time from our next guest, because this was a big announcement yesterday from Utah State University that's going to impact a lot of lives, and also, my words, not theirs in the press release, makes good on some, I think, long-owed debt, in a way, that all of us here in this country have, but especially here in Utah. Joining us right now from Utah State University, Executive Vice President and Chief of Operational Officer Robert Wagner. Robert, this announcement yesterday basically was a shout-out to the indigenous communities here in Utah to say, hey, come here, go to school, right?
I'm Elizabeth Smart. Sexual exploitation and violence are unimaginable crimes that far too many people in our communities experience. In the U.S. alone, a person is sexually assaulted every 68 seconds. Every 9 minutes, that victim is a child. It's time these numbers change. Learn more about how you can join me in the fight against child sexual exploitation at malouffoundation.org.
New federal guidelines have nearly doubled the number of Americans eligible for lung cancer screening. Insurance companies are required to cover these tests for those ages 50 to 80 who currently smoke or used to smoke. Along with new treatments, lung cancer screening saves lives. If you are 50 to 80 years old and smoke or used to smoke, talk to your doctor about lung cancer screening. For more information and to find a screening center near you, visit the National Lung Cancer Roundtable at nlcrt.org.
Camping. This is no joke territory when it comes to the speed and the power of that water coming down right now. About half of our snowmelt is melted, but only half. So this is going to be with us for a while. Kicking things off here this hour with a very special guest, hot on the heels of a big announcement from Utah State University yesterday that really... I was excited to see this. This is something that many would say long overdue, but it's just an invitation, basically, to indigenous peoples here in Utah from Utah State University, basically saying, hey, come here, go to school. Joining us right now, Executive Vice President and Chief Operational Officer at Utah State University, Robert Wagner. And Robert, you had to be excited as this announcement was rolled out.
Hello, Jason. Yes, absolutely. We just couldn't be more happy to be able to do this for such an important population and part of our Aggie family here at Utah State.
And what does this mean for indigenous peoples in the state that are eyeing up USU? The announcement itself basically saying we'll help you make it happen, right?
Sure. And so one of the things, Jason, that really makes this scholarship unique to Utah State University is the fact that really what we're telling these wonderful students and the communities that they reside in is that Utah State University is making this available to you wherever you're at within our state. As the land-grant institution for the state of Utah, we have campuses located all across the estate. And so we aren't saying just come to Logan. Of course, we would welcome any students here.
Sure.
But really, with this scholarship, what we are saying is Utah State University is going to come to you in your communities, and we're going to provide this Native American student scholarship to you wherever you're at in all 29 counties of this state, as well as students Native American students who reside adjacent to our estate. And that's something unique to Utah State. Again, we'd love you to come to one of our three residential campuses in Logan, Price, and Blanding. But if you can't, if you want to stay in your community, if you want to stay close to your family, and really continue to serve within your community, but you want to pursue an education, we're going to make that possible not only by being close to you, but now by providing this scholarship.
And this was no small feat. This applies to students from every federally recognized tribe. This would qualify, or students would qualify whether they're seeking, as I understand it, a technical certificate or a full bachelor's degree or associate degree. And this also means that for those many people who would not be able to do this otherwise, right?
Sure, and so this applies. So a student would qualify if they are part of a federally recognized tribe that is either located within the state of Utah or is adjacent to it. And if they're part of that tribe, then yes, this student scholarship will cover tuition as well as student fees. And again, another aspect of this that's unique to Utah State University is, Jason, as you explained, this will cover degrees and certificates that start with a technical education certificate through an associate's degree, clear through to a bachelor's degree. So, for example, in the southeast portion of the state, that's where Utah State University provides technical education. Students can use this scholarship to get a technical education certificate. Then at the rest of our locations across the estate, students can use the scholarship for an associate's degree as well as a bachelor's degree. So again, the fact that we're bringing the education out across the state in a real quality way, but then the breadth of the academic programs that we offer and provide across the state, we think is going to be just a great benefit to these students and to the communities that they're a part of.
Sure. This is a big deal. And Robert, I really appreciated this in the press release yesterday. I was thinking back to USU a couple of years ago, I think, maybe more than that, took some time to put out what's referred to as a land recognition statement. But it was USU paying respect, saying, as a land-grant university, we recognize this land once belonged to others before we were here. And so this type of thing is nothing new for Utah State University, right? This has long been recognized, the needs of these communities, and to be blunt, some of our, sanitized history in how we think of everything that's happened here in the West, right?
Sure. As an institution, we have really grown and developed, and we've matured in the way that we serve Native American students and the communities that they reside in. The fact, again, that we're located in so many places, that we're part of these communities, whether it's down in the Four Corners area and our Blanding campus, or Monument Valley, or out in the Uinta Basin in Vernal and Roosevelt, or in Tooele, the fact that we're close to these communities, these relationships, these tribal relationships are so important to us as an institution. And this is just the next step for us to say we want to provide a good, quality, sound educational experience to you wherever you're at. We want to be part of your communities. We want to serve. We want to serve you, not only from an academic program and degree standpoint, but with our extension services too. All of the many ways that our institution serves the state, we're saying to these communities, we want to partner with you. We want to create a positive impact.
Sure. And a positive impact is, almost an understatement. Robert, I was thinking about this. Here on the show, we talk a lot about the legislative session, public policy in general here in Utah. And one thing that's very clear is there's a goal. The state has a goal to, pursue every avenue of boosting education, because the state, the governor, the lawmakers, when they're meeting on Capitol Hill during the general session, they seem to be fully aware, correctly, I think, that education is key to the future workforce, to keeping the economy good here in Utah. And that means we have to consider that for every community, right?
That is exactly right. In fact, all of the public institutions in the state, Jason, one of the performance metrics, if you will, or one of the ways that the legislature considers the work that we do as higher education institutions, the first category that they've asked us to focus on is access. And of course, we want to broaden that access, and we want to go deeper out across the estate. So this scholarship really does get at what the state legislature is asking us as an institution, and that's provide greater access to quality higher education out across the estate. And we're really pleased and honored to have that responsibility and to really have that as a goal. And I appreciate the state legislature in recognizing that access in higher education is absolutely critical.
Sure. And this, is a direct route to addressing some of that, to making that a reality for a lot of people. And as I understand it, Robert, before this announcement was made, obviously this wasn't just, a bunch of people sitting in a room saying, hey, this is a good idea. All right, let's do it. There was a lot of research put into this. And my understanding is that research revealed very early on there's definitely a demand for this, right?
Absolutely. So as we've looked across the state, we have right around 400 Native American students that typically attend Utah State University combined at all of our campuses. Looking at that and then realizing the populations that we still need to reach out to, that we still need to get out to, that we need to provide greater access to. As we sat down and thought, we really considered what are the barriers, what might be stopping or prohibiting students in seeking a higher education certificate or a degree. And of course, we understand the tuition and finances, that's a barrier, transportation, housing. And so what can we do as an institution to really go after those barriers and really help students? So the scholarship will help with tuition and fees. The fact that we're offering this at all of our campuses across the state will help with things like transportation and housing if they're just not able to come to one of our residential campuses. And so really looking at the barriers, going after them and saying, how can we help students to get through those barriers and really access higher education?
Just amazing stuff, really. And for listeners who want to read more, you can see the full press release on the announcement from yesterday at usu.edu. You can also read USU's land acknowledgement statement that we've referenced here. And for those interested, the instructions, as I understand it, Robert, of course, those listening, reach out to representatives of your respective tribes for more information. But you can also, correct me if I'm wrong, Robert, contact USU directly?
Correct. And on that same press release, there is a URL link. We have created a web page specifically for this scholarship with information and how to apply, as well as frequently asked questions. And on that web page, there's a way to chat with a USU representative. You can also call. So by going to that press release that's on our home page, you can access that information. If you're on our home page and just want to go into the search bar and type USU Native American Student Scholarship, that will take you directly to that page also.
Very nice. Again, this announcement yesterday, the creation and now public offering of the Native American Student Scholarship, tuition-free scholarship, also seeking to, get people into education at all levels, from technical certificates to associate and full-on bachelor degrees, any and all of the above, and a really, really big deal. This will, of course, be offered at, all 30 locations throughout the state of Utah. As Robert mentioned, Logan, Blanding, Price, and more. So just a huge deal for the Native communities here in Utah, and big news for Utah State University as well. Our guest again has been Robert Wagner. Dr. Wagner is the Executive Vice President and Chief Operational Officer at Utah State University. And Robert, very much appreciate taking some time for us today.
Jason, thank you very much. It's been my pleasure.
Oh, ours as well. And for listeners, happy to have you here as well. Stick around. We'll be back with more right after this.
Buckle up, Utah. The Adventure Sales event is here.
Get ready to blaze new trails at Murdoch Chevrolet.
Our award-winning lineup has got you covered for those long drives and off-road expeditions.
Right now, take $3,000 off a new Silverado Diesel HD or a new 2023 Silverado 1500.
When you walk through our doors, you feel like family.
At Murdoch Chevrolet in Logan and Woods Cross or online at murdochchev.com.
Chevrolet, find new roads.
Call 866-628-3065 or see dealer for complete details. Offer expires 5/31/2023.
Can you imagine what it would be like if you only had one option to choose from when buying a new car? Or while grocery shopping, you could only choose one cereal? Sounds crazy, doesn't it? Hi, this is Matt Robbins with Quality First Insurance. This may be the problem with your insurance. You're settling for one company's rates with no other options available. Auto Owners Insurance and Quality First will give you options. Quality First Insurance, 752-0101. For more information, go to q1ins.com.
What is dedication?
My daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanted to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. It is critical we keep AM radio in all cars and all trucks. Text AM to 52886 today.
Standard message and data rates apply.
That's our time for today. Hope everyone will join us on tomorrow's show. We'll be talking about birds. New study from researchers here in Utah that shows birds, well, looking at birds, hearing birds, might be really good for your mental health. What's interesting about this, though, is it piggybacks or maybe clarifies even what being outside, something that's been known for a long time, being outside, being good for your mental health, what that's all about. The research into birds and the effect on human mental health implies, at least, that it's what you hear, the animals, nature, things like that, and that song of a bird could be key to all of that. We'll talk about how the research was conducted, which is almost as interesting as the conclusion itself. That's tomorrow on the program. Also, a local media organization trying to do something cool, publishing historic news articles. The problem is some people didn't know that's what they were. Confusion ensued. That's tomorrow on KVNU's For the People. Dave Ramsey is next here on KVNU Logan.
Covering all the news. Stay with 610 AM and 102.1 FM. Breaking news and stimulating talk. KVNU Logan.